Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Generation S podcast. We're back with another NHL episode with I was going to say good friend, but we all know that's not true. With my friend here, Nick. We've had a hiatus for the last 3 weeks. So we have a lot to get into. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to be talking about the updated standing so far. We're about a month into the season. So I kind of just want to hear your thoughts looking at the standings right now and just your thoughts.
So I think last time for the Central, I said it with Avalanche, Blues, and then Jets, Wild, followed by Dallas, Nashville, Chicago, Arizona. And I got to change that. I think Arizona might not even get 10 wins based at this point. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. Worse than we all thought somehow. But the Blues, though, again, I'm a St. Louis guy. You're a St. Louis guy. They look really, really good. Also, now that Nathan McKinnon's out for 3 weeks with a lower body injury, they can definitely solidify their playoff spot here. I know it's early, but they can make a push. I know, again, it's early. It sounds weird. It's only November. But the way the rest of this division is playing out right now, they're the best team. And it's not even close, in my opinion, right now, the way they've been playing and the way everybody else has been playing. Nashville and Dallas are kind of there. Minnesota and Winnipeg, I just don't see hanging around come turn of the calendar. Blues do have lots of injuries and people on COVID right now, and they're still winning games, which is great. Bennington is playing out of his mind. It is crazy. He's top 10 in the league right now for a goalie. There's no questions asked for that. I know some people might even have him top 7, top 5, just kind of depending on where they see him. But absolutely amazing right now.
So one biggest thing that worries me about the Blues is that, yeah, they have the injuries and the COVID list. They've been struck by COVID. Again, it looks like everything's been minor symptoms so far, if any, but they're still getting hit by it. Players are still entering protocol. We're at the point now where we're running out of cap space because, and I don't know if they changed. I got to look at the article for like a brief second, but if you get put onto the COVID protocol, it doesn't take away from your salary cap. So we were reaching that point where we basically had no room to call up anyone, and we're going to have to play with short people. So luckily it hasn't come to that yet. But that being one of my biggest worries, it seems that COVID is kind of spreading through the Blues clubhouse right now. Again, it sounds like most of the players are just having sniffles, maybe a cough, and it's, as a test, they're coming back as COVID. But another concern is that recently the Blues have not been playing a full 60 minutes. And that was evident against the Kings. And then they played Chicago. And then just on this road trip against the Kings and the Sharks and the Ducks, where, like everyone says, California used to be really scary and now they're not. We had more trouble against the California teams than I feel like we should have. And then especially again against Winnipeg last night, I don't know if it was because the amount of games in a short stretch or, we're short bodies because of COVID. So I think coming back home, that'll help. Especially with how Blues fans have basically welcomed back the team. Road trip was successful, in my opinion. Again, you'd like to see better, I want to say a perfect sweep, but, can't always be perfect. But, yeah, I would say it was a successful road trip. So looking forward to come back home, and hopefully Blues players can get their legs under their feet, or else what you said, they might not be able to make that run, especially because now is the time to separate yourselves from the rest of the pack.
And just got off that road trip, 5 points in 8 games, never bad. And you mentioned California. Obviously, the past few years they have not been good, but since they haven't been good, they've got high draft picks, and those draft picks are kind of starting to come to play a bit. John Gibson, goalie for the Ducks, he's one of the best in the league. He just is on a very, very bad Ducks team, and he's starting to get some players in front of him. And when you get some players in front of you, you can make a lot more saves and help your team out a lot more. I think that's starting to come through a bit. And San Jose, who the past few years have had some quite garbage goalies, in my opinion, they're gone. New goalies looking pretty good. Same thing with the Kings. Just getting new players in and some older players like Jonathan Quick and Kopitar are just performing absolutely amazing right now.
Kind of just sticking with that theme of the Western Conference and staying with the Pacific. I think we both had high hopes for Los Angeles coming into this year. Through 13 games now, they're 7-5-1. They're 5th place in the Pacific, tied with San Jose. Kind of just want to hear your thoughts. Have they exceeded expectations? Have they gone below your expectations? Have they met your expectations? And kind of give your reasoning behind that.
I think as of right now, they're definitely exceeding expectations. I think most people had them not making the playoffs to like maybe barely scraping into that 8th seed. But with the way that the Pacific is shaping out right now, I can definitely see them making a push. Like we said earlier, we're only 11, 12, 13 games into the season. So it's too hard to tell. I mean, Buffalo and Detroit look good right now. So LA, going to be interesting to see how they play to the end of the 2021 calendar year and how they look going into 2022. But as of right now, definitely exceeding my expectations.
And something to note too, I just noticed this, but Los Angeles is on a 6-game winning streak. So they started off the season at 1-5-1, obviously now 7-5-1. But yeah, I have to agree with you. I think they've met my expectations so far. I mean, again, we're only 11 to 13 games in the season or into the season, and they're in the middle of the playoff race, if you want to call it that, in November. So I think they're kind of hitting those expectations right now. And again, with that 6-game win streak, you kind of have to be worried, especially if you're seeing them a lot.
Sure.
Again, sticking with Pacific, kind of, I find it funny, but Arizona's only win has come against Seattle, and I just find that hilarious. Seattle right now.
But Seattle was up 2-0 in the first minute.
Yeah.
The game. And then, what if I told you that Philip Grubauer, who everybody thought was absolutely amazing, maybe because he had a really good defense in front of him in Colorado, is not performing to the level that people thought. It's kind of crazy how that works, isn't it? He's such a good goalie. He's average. I mean, he's just not making those saves right now. And also, speaking of Seattle, into the season, everybody's like, oh, they're the new Vegas. Expansion draft came and win. Their team, not very good, and they're not performing on the ice.
I would honestly like to personally meet anyone who said they were the new Vegas. Because at least in all the circles that I'm a part of, no one thought they were as good. Like, their expansion draft wasn't great. And, we talked about this an episode or two ago. Their off-season free agency signings were pretty solid. I mean, they picked up James Schwartz, they picked up Grubauer, and they picked up a few others. They're, one could argue great players, but not to the point where you get to that Vegas level of success in the first year. And obviously you're seeing that now, being 4-8-1, I think. Yeah, 4-8-1, 9 points in 13 games. Not a good look.
Especially coming into new city, new fan base, every high expectations, and this is your first year. And I mean, most franchises, Vegas being the exception, have a solid first year, but this is not how you want it to go, because as an expansion city, you want to build excitement and build a good fan base. And if you just put this product out on the ice, it's just not a good recipe for success, because you don't have many fans to begin with, and then you're not going to be able to attract any more with a bad team.
I agree. Again, sticking with Pacific, Edmonton and Calgary leading the charge in the first two seeds in this Pacific. Edmonton, especially, I feel like I'm low key kind of surprised by that, only because with Mike Smith being injured and Mikko Koskinen, he was shaky last year, and then he's come in and absolutely, I think he's won every game but one that he started with ever since replacing Smith because he's injured, and then Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, best two players in the league by far, without a doubt. I mean, McDavid made everyone fail No Nut November this past week. It was filthy. So Edmonton, they've always had that regular season success. Obviously, still 13 games in the season. It's way too early to even think about playoffs, but here we are. Can they keep that level of success headed into the middle parts of the season and then eventually into the playoffs?
Especially with the offseason they had, that was well subpar. They traded for washed up Duncan Keith. I thought that was good.
Who's been awful, by the way. He's been awful.
Oh, who would have thought that would have happened? Come on. I think they also re-signed Darnell Nurse, who was good offensively, but just defensively is awful. Traded away their actual good defenseman and Ethan Bear, who is good, and then they're just like, no, Doug Keith's better. So the fact that they're doing this good right now is definitely very surprising. Obviously, it helps when you have two of the probably top three players in the league on your lineup, like going in, night out, knowing that they could each put up 2, 3, 4, 5 points sometimes. So very good start for them for sure. And then on top of that, Calgary, who I personally am kind of surprised in by the resurgence of some of their players. I don't feel like they have that kind of one mega all-star, just a lot of very high profile players who are performing very well right now. Also the resurgence of Markstrom. Very surprised by that after his mediocre year last year. And then Anaheim as well, currently sitting in third, 7-4-3, 17 points through 14 games. I don't think many people saw that one coming, at least right now. Again, one November, especially for a team like that, but very good for their start.
Kind of the, I don't know if you'd call it resurgence, but the kind of discovery of Troy Terry and how he's basically just popped off during their win streak of 5 games so far. Flipping the switch here. Now we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference. The two powerhouses, Florida and Carolina. The biggest game of the week last year was between those two teams. Obviously, Florida came on top. Everyone made fun of Carolina because, the first team they've played that was legit and they got absolutely stomped in the face. But here we are talking about it, and now Florida has lost 2 games in a row, and Carolina won their last game. But for me, I'm kind of shocked about Carolina. Freddie Anderson, what a guy. Maybe just getting out of Toronto helps everyone because he's been stellar through those first 11 games.
Absolutely, for sure. And then also their power play is absolutely electric right now. And it just seems like they just can't miss a beat. Everything is in stride. And they're obviously one of the top teams in the league, which no one really expected, I think, coming out of this offseason. They lose Dougie Hamilton. They traded away Ned. Can't pronounce his last name, but just kind of some questionable moves, and then they just come in first 11 games, 10-1, 20 points in 11 games. No one expected it, which is absolutely amazing for their part.
And then talking about Florida for a quick second, Bobrovsky seems to finally have gotten his feet under him. He's been very, very good. I know he's injured right now. And Spencer Knight, a really good backup. Again, yeah, they've lost 2 in a row, but nothing to worry about there, in my opinion. You kind of expected that with Florida. Last year they lost. They had to run into the eventual Stanley Cup champions in the first round. I think that was a series that everyone was ready to watch, and was kind of ashamed that it didn't go 7 games in the first round. But it looks like Florida, even in the midst of a lot of drama that doesn't involve them, but kind of does because of their former coach. It's kind of good to see that they're finally taking charge and winning games. It's good for Sunrise, Florida.
Absolutely. And then just looking at the standings, Detroit is in second place.
Trust in the Yiser plan. Trust in the Yiser plan.
Although it does help when you have probably one of two Calder finalists in Maureen Sider and Lucas Raymond, who are actually just carrying that team right now. And like, if one of them doesn't win the Calder, I'd be very, very surprised. But then also towards the bottom, Buffalo doing their typical Buffalo thing in October and November, making everybody think that they're actually somewhat a decent team. Through their 12 games, they're 5-2, 12 points in 12 games. Not a bad start for them, but we all know from recent memory that they always get off to a good start and then just go towards the middle of the end of the season. Another team, Pittsburgh. They're currently 4-3-4 through 11 games, 12 points, sitting in the bottom of the Metro. No one, I didn't expect that. I know they're without, or I know Crosby came back. They're without him for quite a few of their games. I believe Malkin is still out. I think Tang is out last time I checked. So they're missing probably arguably their top 3 guys, at least their top 2. We're missing their top 2 forwards and their top defenseman. But that's not what I would have expected from a team like that. Again, early on, these games, they matter, but they don't really. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound this month of November and then into early December and going to that flip the calendar year.
Yeah, I mean, the Metropolitan, just looking at it, I mean, 1st and 8th place are separated by 8 points. Again, you have 1st being Carolina, who's 10-1. It's tough when basically just looking at the games, everyone's obviously played the same amount. And teams are just on fire to begin. So it kind of looks like a steep mountain, but everyone goes on streaks of losing, everyone goes on winning streaks. So, if you're a Pittsburgh fan, if you're an Islanders fan, which is kind of shocking, I mean, they're 5-3-2. They've only played 10 games, obviously, if you can do quick math like that. And they've all been on the road. So I think once they finally get to play in their new home arena, I think things will change for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders kind of dip in the standings until they get home, just because of how much travel and kind of the wear and tear on their bodies. But other than that, I mean, the Metro kind of looking about as what I expected, besides the Pittsburgh New Islanders being at the bottom. I haven't seen much from them, but the Rangers, obviously, they're doing really good. They're 2nd place right now. So I don't know if you've seen how they've played. I don't know if you have any thoughts about them, but
I haven't. I know Shesterkin is playing out of his mind right now. But other than that, I haven't really been following them a whole lot. So that's all I got. Quickly, we're going to switch here real quick. Go back to Buffalo and that Jack Eichel trade to Vegas. It finally happened. He's free. Although the question is, how does it trade? Well, so Eichel got traded. I think it was him in the 3rd for Krebs, Alex Took, and 1st and 2nd. I think I might have gotten a few of those draft picks wrong, but we'll see how this plays. Obviously, Jack Eichel, one of the better players in the league, hasn't played a whole lot in the past year due to injury. I think he'll be out until like January, maybe February, based on what I saw, which Vegas just needs to get healthy right now. They're currently sitting in 6th place, but they're without a lot of their main players, Pacioretty on the IR. They need to get healthy. Leonard is playing okay right now. He can definitely step up his game. We'll see how this plays out. The last time Buffalo traded an all-star, that guy had the name of Ryan O'Reilly, who is now a Conn Smythe winner with the St. Louis Blues, and the Sabres got pretty much nothing in return. So we'll see how this trade goes for them. I hope them the best because Buffalo fans, they need something. It's been
just comparing those two trades that you brought up, I think Buffalo fares a little bit better in this one. Again, I don't know if he was held at gunpoint at that point, but Alex Tuck says he's excited to play in Buffalo. Again, that's his hometown. So that there's probably some sincerity and truth to that because, growing up watching the Sabres play, you're obviously going to cheer for them. And now it's kind of a dream to play for your hometown team. Kind of just the situation surrounding them suck right now. But I think they'll definitely fare better because, who is Tage Thompson still a part of that team?
I think so.
I think he's like the only part of that trade that's still on the team. So I think with Alex Tuck being a part of that trade, I think they're going to fare much better. Kind of keeping on that note, kind of the days leading up to the finalization of that trade at like 6 a.m, like last Wednesday, I think. It was reported by Kevin Weeks that the Flames were basically finalized the trade and it involved Matthew Tkachuk.
Yes.
And obviously reports have been, if you've done any digging, reports have found out that obviously that wasn't true and that there was maybe a little bit of tweaking there from Kevin Adams, the general manager of Buffalo, who I think was former teammates with Kevin Weeks. I don't know if that's true.
There was definitely a connection there for sure.
But yeah, there was that connection where maybe Adams said, hey, tweet this, and he kind of put pressure on Vegas to maybe up that deal. So obviously the whole Matthew Tkachuk thing wasn't true. Kind of a little fallout from that. But imagine if Matthew Tkachuk went to the Sabres.
I would say RIP his career and wish him the best of luck because he would need it. Also, I would be very mad. I have Matthew Tkachuk on my face. So, but that's a separate thing for a later conversation.
Yeah. And going off of that, coming as two Blues fans, I don't know if you saw it, but when that tweet was sent out, everyone was like, oh, this could be a possible 3-team trade between Buffalo, Calgary, and St. Louis, in which we would get Matthew Tkachuk, Calgary would get Eichel, and then Buffalo would get Tarasenko. So those kind of rumors kind of spinning about. Obviously, there was little to no credibility on those, but kind of just thinking about that, I bet Buffalo's on his no trade list. I think he still has one of those, right?
Yeah, he has a 16. It's either 15 or 16. Like half the league, he can't be traded to.
So I would assume that Buffalo's on that list. I mean, if Buffalo isn't on that list, I'd be shocked. And if Buffalo isn't on his list, I'm yelling at Doug saying, "Why didn't you get that deal done?" Exactly. But that whole rumor kind of blew up for no reason. Would have been sick to see Matthew Tkachuk play for the Blues, but him going to Buffalo would have been, like you said, rip for his career. Because yikes.
Speaking of Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk got named captain of the Ottawa Senators. I believe it was like 25th captain team history, something up there. But congrats to him, well deserved. They are a team that is obviously rebuilding right now, but hopefully, again with their good draft picks and good leadership, they will be contending in the next few years. Be excited to see him in the playoffs. Sure.
Very true. Yeah, definitely well deserved to Brady Tkachuk. You kind of expected it. He's kind of been the leader ever since he got drafted by them. So kind of nice to see Ottawa finally give him the letter that he deserves. But, let's see if he can actually lead Ottawa back to the playoffs.
Absolutely. And last time we talked about Chicago a bit, how they were off to a slow start. And, their slow start was probably going to be it looks like it's going to be the whole year. Only 3 wins, 14 games, the 3-9-2 with only 8 points. Absolutely awful. Seth Jones, not worth the money. Marc-Andre Fleury is just old. He needs to retire at this point, probably. Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves are, again, getting old, and they just don't have the other players around them. And then also speaking of Chicago, obviously the news about what came out during their early championship run, I believe it was 2010, about Kyle Beach, absolutely disgusting information. I'm not sure if you want to talk about this, but before we go, I'll get into it. You can throw in your thoughts on it. So for those who aren't aware, back in 2010, one of the, I believe, doctors who kind of was a doctor, kind of not, he sexually assaulted one of the players.
It was their video coach.
Review coach, sorry. Sexually assaulted one of the players, and then he went to upper management, and they just kind of threw it under the rug because, when you're one of the best teams in the league making a deep playoff run, that's not really something you want to worry about, especially back in the early 2010s when this stuff was not as big, in my opinion, as it is today. And then they went on to win 3 cups in 5 years, I believe. So don't really want to worry about that because it'll put a stain on the cups that you win and the team name. However, past few weeks, past few months, everything kind of unraveled, and everything just got blown up for them. All the upper management of that team, absolutely disgraceful, disgusting. Joe Quenneville, who we mentioned a little bit earlier, former Florida coach, got fired, and will never coach in the league again, hopefully, for his part in this. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what happened for those who are not aware.
Yeah, and it doesn't really stop there. I mean, so far I'm assuming he's known as John Doe 2 right now, who was a minor when this happened to him. So this whole thing, it hasn't stopped. It needs to stop, but we wouldn't be doing a due diligence if we just passed over it like the league did for 11 years. So, props to Kyle Beach for coming out and explaining what happened during that, disgraceful of all the coaches who, by the way, were quoted saying, "Who knows when we can go on a playoff run like this again? Let's not worry about it." That as a whole kind of describes what the NHL is like. And, in today's society, it doesn't matter what your thoughts on everything is, that just can't happen, especially stuff like sexual assault like that. So, again, props to Kyle Beecher coming out. And then I'm blanking on the reporter's name, but I think his last name is Westhead. Props to him for not giving up on the story when the league tried to bury it over the summer. So props to him for keeping at it and interviewing Kyle Beach and I think the mother of John Doe 2 recently. So again, this whole scandal is just beginning. It's sad when, the interviews that night when everything basically came out and Kyle Beach said who he was and what happened, that the Blackhawks had a game that night, and Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves in their post game basically kept lying about what had happened. And at that point, when everything is out there already, there's no point in lying. Yet they still did that. And then you have, rookies and second year and third year players who were at this time like 8 years old when this happened. So obviously it doesn't really affect them, but they were being more professional than the people who were involved in it. So it's kind of just a shame for the league. And, us as fans, we wonder why the NHL isn't recognized as one of the big 4 leagues and why we don't get respect. And then stuff like this happens. And you're just like, maybe we don't deserve it. There's obviously going to be stuff in all the leagues, MLB, NBA, NFL. Obviously, there's still stuff that happens. But, like, when you have a league like the NHL right now who is actively trying to stop this and settle it, behind closed doors, that can't happen. And that's why this league is being held back and why it's a shame that it's the greatest sport in the world, in my opinion, yet we have the worst league in the world. So.
Absolutely. However, on a more positive note, Austin and I are both in first place in our fantasy hockey divisions. The only one of us is undefeated. So,
Yeah.
so all I'm saying, not only of that, but honestly, you're gonna pull it up here real quick. My entire bench is on the IR with another goal in the IR and then another player in my active roster on the IR. So the fact that I'm undefeated with like 6 players on the IR, it just tells you how good the manager of this team is. So
Hey, man. It happens. I still have a 94% chance to make the playoffs. I'm just saying. So
I have 86, not worried about it. I am currently losing by like 10 points right now for this week, but anything could happen.
I want to make this about me real quick.
Absolutely.
My loss last week was one rough. Lost by 60 points there, and look at his top 2 scorers in Draisaitl and Kane. They combined for 60 points. My top 2 combined for 30.
Yeah.
And we talked about how Draisaitl and McDavid are the top 2 players in the league. McDavid didn't do anything last week, while Draisaitl was doing everything. It was insane. I was so upset. And I kind of just want to look at this box score real quick because you know exactly what I'll be talking about whenever it loads. But literally Monday night when this happened. Look, Monday night, 31-2. 31-2. Look at this box score. Kane had 18 and Draisaitl had 12.
Not much you can do about that.
And then McDavid was the reason I had points in the first place with 1 assist. So yeah, kind of just making that about myself real quick, just because of how unfortunate my 1 loss is. But we can talk about your team now.
I did get a decent matchup last week. I think I either played, let's see, I played the guy at the 7th with most points. So I didn't do that good myself, but hey, a win is a win. It is what it is. I have not lost a regular season fantasy hockey matchup since COVID started. So since before COVID, so we're almost approaching 2 years. That's how good I am. No, I'm just kidding. But
Okay, buddy. Okay. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode of the NHL podcast. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you want more. Let us know how your team is doing. I mean, we basically covered a little bit of every team. So if any surprises for you, just let us know in the comments. How's your fantasy hockey team doing? But other than that, that's all we've got for this episode of the NHL. Again, make sure to like, hit subscribe if you want more. But we'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.